Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. As requested, today we'll finally be exploring Battleship, the 2012 sci-fi action film directed by Peter Berg, based on the Hasbro naval combat game.
Against the computer or opponent, your mission, sink the enemy's fleet.
Battleship sunk.
Battleship sunk.
Yeah, now you're talking.
Starring Taylor Kitsch, Alexander Skarsgård, Liam Neeson, Brooklyn Decker, Tadanobu Asano, Jesse Plemons, and Gregory D. Gadson, Battleship showcases humanity's first contact with an extraterrestrial race. The consequence of broadcasting into space and getting a response that we might not like is something that people like Stephen Hawking had warned us about. So when a small armada arrives during Global Naval War games, it's no surprise that we were woefully unprepared. This leads to an intense standoff and battle to determine the fate of the world. In this video, we're going to explore the narrative, the Alien Regents, their technology, motive for arriving here, and how the ending might have misled us all.
Foxtrot 2-4, ready to fire.
Fire!
The Garonian Regents are advanced spacefaring humanoid aliens, native to a terrestrial planet that was capable of sustaining life. Much like Earth's relationship with Sol, their homeworld was a Goldilocks-type planet that had favorable conditions. Not only was it the perfect distance from its sun, but the world was capable of holding water and had the right mass to sustain an atmosphere. In 2005, the existence of this world was discovered by scientists on Earth who believed the distant planet had a climate nearly identical to our own. By 2006, NASA began construction of Landsat 7, a transmission satellite 5 times more powerful than anything built before it. Designated the Beacon Project, the goal of this program was to make contact with a world named Planet G. In the midst of this, Naval Officer Stone Hopper, commander of the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the USS Sampson, tries to stop his brother Alex from ruining his life. Coasting through existence with talent and intuition, but lacking the vision to lead himself or others into becoming better, the 20-something-year-old continues to get himself into trouble. From not wanting a job to help his brother with bills to literally breaking into the local convenience store to give a girl that he just met a chicken burrito.
I will get you your chicken burrito.
5 minutes. Starting now.
The culmination of the Beacon International project came in 2012 when they began transmitting a signal every 24 hours from the Saddle Ridge facility in Hawaii, operated by Dr. Cal Zapata. This was sent to the deep-orbiting Landsat 7, which would amplify the signal and send it over to Planet G. With the help of Stone pulling strings to keep him out of trouble, Alex manages to become a lieutenant in the Combat Information Center of the USS John Paul Jones. The guy even manages to woo Admiral Shane's daughter Samantha, a physiotherapist, and the very girl he tried to impress by breaking into the convenience store at the start. On the eve of the Rim-Pack War Games, the final soccer match between America and Japan illustrates many of his character flaws. Alex is very skilled, managing to score a goal with the help of his team, but when he's kicked in the face by Captain Nagata and gets a concussion, his douchebag side takes over. Despite his brother insisting on letting another person take the kick, wanting the glory for himself, Alex disobeys his captain and misses the shot by a mile away, giving Japan the win. Although he planned on asking him for Samantha's hand in marriage during the war games, knowing he was lacking the kind of moral or leadership fortitude the Admiral wanted in his daughter's partner, he chickens out. In fact, instead of taking advantage of an opportunity Samantha gave him to speak with her father, he opts to brawl with the equally belligerent Captain Nagata of the Japanese Maritime Defense Force.
Our heads go bang, we fall back, bang again, just like the great Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis?
Did he just say Jerry Lewis?
Yes, sir.
Told that the Navy planned on kicking him out once Rim-Pack was over, Alex begs his older brother to pull more strings, but is told the bitter truth.
You've got to make some calls.
Some calls?
There's got to be some.
Who do I call to teach you humility?
He probably should have just sent his brother off the pitch for threatening a teammate and let the public humiliation do it, but the knowledge that his career is over seems to work just the same. Apologizing for putting his brother's career in jeopardy for the first time, Alex begins his slow journey of character transformation in time for the arrival of the Regent aliens. We also learn that Samantha was nearby on Oahu, helping the veteran and amputee, Mick Canales, adapt to his new prosthetic legs. While Mick was on the point of giving up, believing that he was now half a man, her unorthodox therapy style also sets the decorated soldier on the way to reclaiming his honor and dignity. At the same time, we learn that in space, one large vessel disguised as a meteor shower hurled toward the Earth. Entering the solar system, it passed by Saturn and divided into 5 fragments, drawing the attention of Earth's scientific and military communities, who were clearly unprepared for a response. The US military tracked 4 of the objects heading to the Pacific Ocean, whilst the 5th one containing their communications collided with an orbital satellite and crashed into Hong Kong, causing a great deal of damage. The massive death toll sends a shockwave across the world, with many unsure how to respond. With their communication module destroyed, the Regents land the remainder of their vessels in the oceans of Hawaii, just off the coast of Oahu, the precise location of the facility that sent up signals to Landsat 7. Hearing about this, the John Paul Jones, Samson, Miyoko, and other nearby ships are sent to investigate. It should also be noted that debris landed in Iowa, France, Germany, and Scotland. Interpreting the RIMPAC naval war games as a global coalition force, and unable to communicate back home, the Regents used one of their ships to create a massive force field, preventing the majority of vessels from entering. The only ships that happen to be inside are the ones containing Stone, Alex, and Nagata, leading to a tense standoff and a breakdown in communication that sparks a war. With vessels capable of traveling across star systems and many advanced technologies, including heavy armor, cybernetics, energy weapons, advanced scanners, and even the ability to disrupt electromagnetic waves, it's clear they were a superior technological species. Hailing from the newly discovered extrasolar planet G, the Regents are a tall, bipedal, mammalian humanoid species that were highly intelligent. With 4 disjointed digits on each hand, minuscule ears, flat faces, a porcupine-like bristle on their chin, and green-gold fleckled eyes that are extremely sensitive to bright light, they're forced to wear advanced exosuits on Earth. Their sensitivity to light, like the reptiles of Earth, indicate that they're possibly either a nocturnal species or a subterranean one. I don't think that they live on the surface of their home planet, but rather within its depths, in caves, oceans, and buildings made from rock, only venturing out in the evening light. As their biology and much of their technology appeared to be amphibious, it's likely that their homeworld was a water planet with a small amount of land. Their environmental suits, which possessed various color schemes, had their own HUD-based system that allowed them to identify targets and objectives. Their armored suits are surmounted by airtight helmets, pressurized, and an integrated friend or foe identification system. In addition, their suits simulated an atmosphere that was hydrated and saturated with oxygen, lending credence to the notion that they were indeed amphibious humanoids. Within the helmets, the HUDs allowed them to examine the heart rate, nervous system, and retina of living beings. These exosuits also provided them with a great deal of strength, enabling them to easily damage human vehicles and throw adult humans around like pillows. The suits also enhanced their defense, protecting them from weapons fire, including rifle or pistol rounds without any issues. The heavy-duty units also had some form of modular tool on their right arm that was able to shift between a claw, a blade, and an energy torch to cut through objects. Most curious, however, is the revelation that they could pass on genetic memories through touch. Their special environmental suits are color-coded to represent different ranks, from the Blue Unit, Gold Officers, the Special Forces, to simple crewmen. The Blue Units are the most basic type in the Regent's ground forces. Generally unarmed, they were comprised of workers, scientists, and technicians. Gold Officers are in charge of each squad, giving out orders and leading them on patrol. They too were generally unarmed and never directly fought with humans, unlike the Special Forces unit that broke into one of the warships to recover a Gold Officer found in the water. Then we've got the crewmen, alien pilots of the Regent spaceships. Wearing simple black suits, unlike the rest of their teams, they didn't wear a helmet as the ships provided them with a darkened protection against sunlight. Finally, we have the brutish Special Forces units, amphibious tanks that protected their kin from danger. The Special Forces and Heavy Infantry units were large, muscular aliens enhanced with cybernetics and heavy armor. While most Regents were comparably stronger than humans, the Heavy Infantry were significantly more powerful. This was compounded by their functional exosuits, which effectively turned them into biological tanks. It was this unit that did the dirty work for the Regents. Like extraterrestrial Navy SEALs, they could do anything from guarding an outpost, attacking the enemy head-on, rescue missions, to even sabotage, weakening the enemy from within. The aliens were also shown to have their own personalities. Some were obedient, some cruel, others logical, while some were curious and harmless. It's almost a mirror reflection of humanity in the variability of personality types. The alien mothership was a central command vessel, in addition to being the largest and most powerful in the Regent fleet. Like the Stingers, the mothership is capable of interstellar space travel, but was primarily designed to be used in water. During their travel in deep space, it appeared at the center of the formation, with the other vessels forming a protective casing to shield it. Equipped with 2 powerful force field generators on the stern, it was able to single-handedly hold off the might of the world. The generators projected a beam shaped into an electrical energy barrier that covered a large region of the planet's surface. Reaching almost 300,000 feet in altitude and a depth of 2 nautical miles, the function of this was twofold: to keep anyone or anything from entering or leaving the area, whilst also disrupting communications. Featuring an array of advanced weapons and technology, it was the most superior battle carrier mankind had ever seen. The alien Stingers made up the majority of the fleet that landed on Earth, and their movements were inspired by various amphibious creatures. With the help of multiple suction hoses dangling beneath them, they suck in water to hydrate the aliens and the ship itself. Each Stinger seen in the film represents a human ship class in the Battleship board game. They even bear inscriptions and identification marks in Garonian, likely the names and class of the ships. The mothership is based on the carrier. The Archer and Striker represent the battleship unit, the Skimmer is a destroyer, and the Lurker is the submarine in the game, which was destroyed on entry. The Stingers seen in the Battleship film were exploration and communication ships, supposed to be fast, agile, robust, and stable, but they still possess superior firepower, considering how far ahead the Regents were to humanity. Based on the way that their weapons seemed to work, I also think the Stingers were originally made for mining operations, to create caves and large spaces in the oceans of Garanon. These were then, I think, modified to become offensive weapons. Regent technology was constructed of many materials not present on the periodic table, and thus not of Earth. The only element identified was Laurentium. A curious effect of the building material is that it made their vessels invisible to radar, making them only detectable by visual identification. Their mothership was able to generate electromagnetic fields which fired a pulse that severed any means of communication and sent people or objects flying backwards. Both their ships and exosuits had the same friend or foe detection system. Things highlighted green were indicated as being unarmed or not posing a threat, leading to them being ignored. Things that were red, on the other hand, forced the Regents and their auto systems to be ready for attack. Their Stingers were not only capable of surviving a journey across the void of space, but passing through an atmosphere and submerging into a planetary ocean. They served as naval craft and operated by floating across the water, making short jumps to realign their positions. Their primary weaponry consisted of giant explosive pegs, like ordnance fired from turrets that were on top of the ship's hull. The weaponry is actually inspired by the pegs used in the Battleship board game to designate a hit or miss. Standard anti-weapon defenses were capable of destroying them, but a single projectile, once embedded into its target, drilled down and exploded, causing considerable damage. Another weapon at their disposal was the Shredder, a truck-sized sphere wrapped in razor-sharp multi-directional chainsaws. These were launched into the air over large distances and designed with the purpose of eliminating enemy vehicles, weapons, defense systems, and strategic infrastructure. Once launched onto an enemy ship, they proceeded to rip them apart from the inside. The Shredders also had their own HUD that identified targets as hostile or harmless, adding credence to the notion that they wanted to minimize collateral damage. Having said that, they didn't hesitate to destroy their targets, whether or not soldiers were in the way. It's no surprise that given their advanced technology and weaponry, and the misunderstanding caused by their communication module accidentally wiping out a major city, that humans were a bit scared. This is why the Samson, John Paul Jones and Miyoko were so hostile towards the mothership when it generated a force field that prevented them from communicating with the rest of their fleet. With that said, I think that there are at least 4 reasons for their arrival, 2 that indicate invasion, and 2 others that suggest that they might have come in peace. 1. They received our communication and saw an opportunity to send out a scout team before the rest of the armada arrived. Their lost communication hub was there to help them coordinate a ground attack, and their intentions were hostile. This is essentially the theory that the movie wants us to subscribe to. 2. They're a scout team sent to determine whether the planet should become a vassal world and indeed have hostile intentions. 3. They're simply a communications group being escorted by a security detail to make first contact. Their destroyed hub was a means of communicating directly with humanity, but with the module destroyed on entry and the mothership surrounded by a global armada, they were in defensive mode. Their measured attack on the island was simply to defend themselves and call for help because of the threat they were now under. 4. They're a mining team, remnants of a fractured planet torn apart by war, which would explain their burrowing weaponry equipment. Of course, with their communication module destroyed and a global fleet closing in on their position, they also entered into defensive mode. Their attack on Hawaii was simply to establish communications to call for help.
Hard starboard.
As a response to the foghorn sounded off by the human warships that approached the mothership, the skimmer launched a sonic blast from a cannon mounted beneath its nose. The blue energy was discharged in a high-pitched pulse, loud enough to shatter the bridge windows on all 3 warships. While this was simply their way of communicating back to the foghorn, it also signaled that their responses would be proportionate to the action taken against them. But with our puny ships and bodies reeling in from the damage, humanity made the fateful decision to interpret this as weapons fire. With the Samson deciding to retaliate to its response with open fire, partly to help Alex and his 3-person squad that ventured to the mothership, the skimmer tore it to shreds. Picking Alex and his team up, the crew of the John Paul Jones informed him that with their superiors having died, he was now in charge. Furious by the death of his brother, Alex recklessly orders his men to head straight for the Stinger, and noticing that they were not yet armed, Captain Nagata is forced to assist by firing at the alien ship. Firing back, the skimmer obliterates the Miyoko, sending Nagata and a handful of his men that survived overboard. Despite wanting to sacrifice his life and the life of his men by engaging the superior vessel, Alex ultimately agrees to turn away and pick up the survivors. Throughout the entire engagement, it can't be doubted that the Regents displayed considerable restraint. It's only after the humans started behaving more aggressively that the aliens responded in kind. In fact, the aliens are consistently shown trying to avoid unnecessary violence, and even often go out of their way to spare innocent people. Their proportionate responses and emphasis on disabling the ships rather than destroying them until humanity gave them no choice adds further to the notion that they didn't come here with hostility in mind. With the John Paul Jones disengaging combat, a splinter faction of Regents are then sent to hijack the Hawaii facility and contact home, no doubt complaining about the lack of hospitality they received. It's here that Berg delivers 5 minutes of nostalgia that tie into the IP. Realizing that they were outgunned and that they had a few hours until the Regents could relay their message back home, they decide to bring it back to basics. With Nagata revealing that they could use the atmospheric tsunami warning buoys around Hawaii to track the aliens, Alex does the unthinkable, granting Nagata command over the John Paul Jones. Using this method to sink 2 stingers, they rescue an alien officer that sends a telepathic message to Hopper over a dying world, which Alex obviously interprets as a threat. It's critical to note that he doesn't even consider it's the officer's way of de-escalating the conflict by showing what war had done to Garanon. Still, it's here that they gain some vital information about the Regents, that they were amphibious humanoids sensitive to light like some reptiles. It's also interesting to note that when the Special Forces unit breaks in to recover their fallen comrade, none of them kill Alex or his men. In fact, the only one that shows hostility and malice is a rogue alien sent to disable the John Paul Jones. Sure, he's a major dick. Case in point. But consider that at this point, 2 of their ships were sunk, and instead of just destroying the ship and its men altogether, they merely tried to disable it. Still, the brutish bully is taught humility with a 5-inch shell to the face. Stumbling into Cal, Sam and Mick use his spectrum analyzer to radio Alex and confirm that E.T. was phoning home. And while they manage to temporarily disable the signal into space, with the engineering teams quickly repairing their communications amplifier, the John Paul Jones races over to the island. Chased closely by the last Stinger, which caught onto their water displacement detection method, Alex and Nagata use snipers to breach the cockpit windows. Blinding the Regent crew with sunlight at the break of dawn, they unleash fire and fury onto the stunned vessel, tearing it to pieces. Despite winning the battle, Alex and his crew helplessly look on as the Stinger launches a shredder that annihilates the destroyer. With time running out, the surviving crew of the John Paul Jones return to harbor and commandeer the USS Missouri, a decommissioned World War II battleship converted into a museum. Aided by its retired Navy veteran caretakers, they use their grit to put the ship back out to sea. When the giant mothership prepares to engage them, they use ridiculous power sliding maneuvers to avoid enemy fire, until getting into the right position to fire everything they had and dismantle the mothership. Forced to carry a 1,000-pound shell from a disabled cannon on one side of the Missouri to an active cannon on the other, they ultimately fire it towards the island communication hub. Of course, in retaliation, the crippled mothership launches a number of shredders at the crew. Luckily, having disabled the force field, they're saved by fighter jets sent in by Admiral Shane to provide air support. With Alex presented with his brother's posthumous Navy Cross and promoted to Lieutenant Commander while being given a Silver Star, we're led to believe that all is well. The film even ends with him asking the Admiral for his daughter's hand in marriage. But in truth, with the 4 possible scenarios and motives I gave for the Regents coming here, I think that the end result is a catastrophe for humanity. The aliens never made direct ominous threats against humanity, and we weren't able to confirm their definitive intent. While there was collateral damage in the effort to disable infrastructure on the island, with the shredders taking great care to avoid civilians, it's important to consider that all other aggression was in direct response to military force against them. If they were really here to wipe us out, or to use Earth as a vassal world, they would not have held back so much, given their technological superiority. To me, the movie is less of an alien invasion as it is a major breakdown in communication. The entire film is basically powered by confusion.
You're going to reference Art of War right now, aren't you? What are we supposed to do? Fight the enemy where they aren't? Move like waters? I've read that thing like 6 times. It makes no sense.
I can't believe that worked.
Yeah, Art of War. Fight the enemy where they aren't.
But that's not what it means.
Really?
Not even close.
When Alex got the vision of their distant planet, we see a glimpse of violence or at least destruction, but there's no context or cohesive narrative. Naturally, the human response is one of terror and fear, because we're overwhelmed by what we see. And erring on the side of caution, we respond with violence to eliminate the threat and celebrate when we succeed, without pausing for reflection. There's a similar moment in the film Independence Day, when President Whitmore catches a glimpse of what the alien invaders wanted to do. But that communication was explicit. They tell us that they're here to destroy us, and that peace is not an option. Their actions of attacking with a massive armada to take out strategic points around the world, including all military bases and major cities, with no regard for the millions of lives lost, solidify this. It's telling that Battleship denied Hopper that same conclusive epiphany. Stephen Hawking himself warned us that we should be wary of answering back until we've evolved a bit further, and to me, Battleship ironically exemplifies that, whether or not that was intentional. Of course, there's still a chance their intentions were always hostile, so I'm open to hearing which one of the 4 motives you think were driving the Regents, or if you have your own theory altogether in the comments below.
If there is intelligent life out there and they come here, it's going to be like Columbus and the Indians, only we're the Indians.
The post-credit scene ends with 3 kids in Scotland finding a piece of the communications module that went down in the very beginning. With the help of a technician, they managed to open it and look inside to find an alien crawling out, showing no visible sign of hostility. I'm curious to see if we ever get a sequel that establishes what happened with the surviving Regent. But I'm also certain that even if the Regents initially came here in peace, the second confrontation would likely be war.
What kind of chuck wagon?
With that said, that's all for today, folks. A huge thanks to everyone that requested we finally explore Battleship. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and if there's anything else you'd like for me to cover, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film and Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.
We are gonna die. You're gonna die. I'm gonna die. We're all gonna die. Just not today.
Let's drop some lead on those motherfuckers!